In October 2010, 10 months after the catastrophic earthquake that killed nearly 300,000 people and displaced over 1 million more, the worst cholera outbreak in recent history hit Haiti. Within 6 months, 7,000 people are dead. Today, cholera continues to spread across the island. Could better intercluster coordination have prevented this?
Cholera is more than a health problem. Consequently, preparing for and responding to a cholera outbreak involves more than just the health cluster. It requires the concerted efforts of the WASH, education, and nutrition clusters, too. All these clusters were active in Haiti from the first days of the earthquake response. So, were they so focused on earthquake operational response that they forgot about the potential for a second wave of death? Did they ever get together to plan for a deadly cholera outbreak? If so, who was in charge? Were the relevant Haitian authorities fully involved? And did OCHA know that it was their role to ensure strategic oversight? Whose responsibility is it to ensure effective intercluster coordination?
Yeah, the first thing to understand about intercluster coordination, it requires not just in-depth knowledge of the humanitarian system, but real working knowledge of the technicalities of each sector. OCHA ensures responsibilities are clearly allocated and that agreed actions do indeed take place.
What is the purpose of intercluster coordination?
Well, the overall purpose of intercluster coordination, as with clusters themselves, is to increase efficiency and effectiveness of the overall humanitarian aid effort. The intercluster coordination group, forum, team, call it what you like, has to look at the integration of sectoral response plans. Now, integration's a pretty nasty word, but it's looking at the whole sectoral approach, sector by sector, and making sure that where there are synergies, where there are economies of scale between these sectors, that they are identified, recognized and addressed. On top of that, they have to integrate the cross-cutting issues such as diversity, age, gender, environment, this kind of thing, into the overall approach.
How are multi-sectoral responsibilities allocated and cross-cutting issues integrated into cluster response plans?
So multi-sectoral responsibilities are allocated by ensuring that explicit mention is made of cross-cutting issues in cluster response strategies, and accountabilities matrices designate initial responsibilities in multi-sectoral areas of work.
Why is a dedicated intercluster coordination forum necessary?
It's essential that an intercluster forum is established and engaged in day-to-day operational coordination, while the humanitarian country team looks at policy-level decisions and strategic-level coordination. Now that's an easy thing to say, but in fact, strategy is actually driven bottom-up from the field, so of course the strategy is informed by and set by the intercluster group and endorsed by the humanitarian country team. The Intercluster Coordination Forum is also responsible for providing coherent, relevant information and analysis to the HCT to support the ongoing adaptation of the humanitarian strategy to the changing operational environment, and ultimately, the phase-out of humanitarian operations.
Is there more than one model of intercluster coordination?
At the beginning of any international humanitarian response, it's quite normal to find that geographic and sector-based models of coordination will apply for the most part. As things progress, however, more thematic areas which cut across the individual sectors, come to the fore. In such instances, it is probably not the best idea to set up some form of new cluster and formalize it, but leave it as a thematic working group. There cannot be a one-size-fits-all model of intercluster coordination. The type of model needed and its life cycle will be determined by the scale, timing, duration and type of response required, logistical challenges arising, and the national response capacities available. Sub-national intercluster coordination fora should be established wherever operational needs are evident.
Do you have any top tips for intercluster coordination?
An intercluster forum is a way of getting consensus across all the clusters to guide and inform the HCT, rather than a forum for directing and managing the clusters. To recognise where comparative advantages lie and to delegate to the cluster coordinators accordingly. That can only happen if cluster coordinators are prepared to accept the challenges given to them and be responsible not just for their own cluster, but sometimes for the work of a group of clusters working thematically. Make sure there's only one seat per cluster at intercluster meetings. Anybody else can come and observe from behind. It's essential that concerns and input emanating from the intercluster forum are understood and acted upon by the HCT, and that such actions and the results are communicated back to the clusters. Allow the agenda to be driven by the cluster coordinators, not by the facilitator. Hello, my name is James Shepherd-Barron. I was a WASH cluster coordinator in Haiti. When I arrived, some months after the earthquake itself, disease surveillance efforts were being improved, the public health laboratory was being rehabilitated, community health workers were being trained. Lots was going on, but it wasn't enough. For a start, our planning scenario was based on an outbreak in one of the 1,000 or so camps in and around Port-au-Prince. This scenario turned out to be wrong. The clusters involved, WASH and health, should have included education and nutrition. The meetings when they took place were not minuted properly, so that when the staff turned over, it wasn't clear whose responsibility it was to carry out the agreed actions. And procurement of cholera kits, of oral rehydration salts, was also slow. All of these issues could have been caught had the WASH, education, health and nutrition clusters worked systematically together. These are the technical clusters. It's their job to make sure that the technical aspects are covered. But strategic oversight together under the intercluster auspices of OCHA would certainly have helped.